Representative Jim McGovern just asked a simple question. President Trump promised his ballroom would be 100% privately funded, but McGovern had documents from the Office of Management and Budget showing transfers of taxpayer dollars. $340,800,000 on June 12th.
In fact, I can tell you right now that a transfer of $340.8 million in taxpayer dollars to the ballroom construction on June 12, 2026.
$10,750,000 on June 12th. $45 million on June 15th. Total, nearly $400 million. Transferred from accounts Congress appropriated for other purposes. Moved into the White House Repair and Restoration account for security upgrades.
But are you aware that President Trump and his team have transferred roughly $400 million in taxpayer dollars that Congress appropriated to the Secret Service and put into the White House Repair and Restoration account in order to make, quote, security upgrades as part of the ballroom construction project?
McGovern called it an end run around Congress. The Republicans had no answer. They said they support the appropriation bills. They said the previous administration did worse. They did not say they oppose the transfers. They did not say they will stop them. Let's watch.
I love when my Republican friends talk about that they need to cut humanitarian aid programs, food aid programs, because they're worried about the debt. But nobody on the other side said a word when we passed a tax cut bill that benefited multimillionaires and billionaires that added trillions to the debt. And last week, the week before last, we added another $70 billion to the $100 billion that ICE and CBP already have. None of it is offset. All of it goes on. No one says a word about that. But when it comes to programs to feed hungry people, all of a sudden, we gotta tighten our belts. I want to begin with. I have a few questions. I'll try to be quick here. Since you're all appropriators, this is a question that I got asked a lot during the break by my constituents. In fact, a gentleman on the airplane down here today asked me about this, and that's the president's ballroom. His lavish ballroom, which he said on multiple occasions would be 100% privately funded. I mean, he said that a million times. 100% privately funded. So let me just ask you yes, no, or maybe. Do you support using taxpayer dollars to fund President Trump's ballroom? Ms. Capter? Do you support using taxpayer funding to fund the ballroom?
No, Mr. Ranking Member, I do not.
Thank you. Ms. Frankel?
No.
Mr. Diaz-Balart?
There's no funding for any ballroom in my appropriation bill, just so you know, because it deals with foreign policy.
I'll note there's no funding in the Energy and Water bill as well.
So let me let both of you, Mr. Diaz-Balart and Clouden, on something. You're appropriators, and I'm surprised you don't know this, but are you aware that President Trump and his team have transferred roughly $400 million in taxpayer dollars that Congress appropriated to the Secret Service and put into the White House Repair and Restoration account in order to make, quote, security upgrades as part of the ballroom construction project? So when you say there's no taxpayer funds going to this, are you aware that, but you're appropriators, and you're on the full committee as well. Are you aware that taxpayer dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars are going to this ballroom? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I'm questioning you, so you don't have to get permission from the chair. Yeah.
So I am aware that we have a pretty high-risk security situation. We have a president who's now suffered.
And so you support that?
I support making sure that the president of the United States is safe. But I have not seen any details.
Well, I will provide you the details. Because
look forward to it.
OMB has provided us all the monies that where there were transfers. I mean, in fact, I can tell you right now that a transfer of $340.8 million in taxpayer dollars to the ballroom construction on June 12, 2026, a second transfer of $10.75 million in taxpayer dollars to the ballroom construction also on June 12, a third transfer on June 15th of $45 million in taxpayer dollars again to the ballroom construction. I mean, I have the documents from the Office of Management and Budget right here, so it's stunning to me that as appropriators that you're unaware of the transfers. But here's my question. If I run the Appropriations Committee, you know, I mean, and I work to get money appropriated for X or for Y, I would want to make sure that the executive branch, whether it's a Republican administration or a Democratic administration, respected the will of Congress, that actually did what appropriators said they would do. So, I mean, this is an end run, this is like an end run around Congress.
Yes.
Is that something you support? And if not, what can the Appropriations Committee do to stop it?
I will note, I took a tour of the White House defense apparatus with the Secret Service recently. I would wonder if you've taken that same tour.
I don't think they'll let me on the White House grounds. So, I mean, you know, I mean, with this president, I don't think. But I mean, but the point of the matter is, if you support.
But have you ever taken that tour? Have you ever taken that tour?
If you support.
Have you ever taken that tour?
Yeah, I have taken the tour, yeah.
Not the White House tour of the security defense apparatus.
Yeah,
I had the chance to talk to the Secret Service.
Yeah.
And you know, when we visit the White House right now, the visitors to the White House go through tents, basically. They stand out in the open.
They've stopped
When we hold state dinners, it's basically on lawn that could
They've
be,
stopped
have
visitation.
just been rained under. And the ballroom portion,
But this, I think he.
there's a.
No, he isn't. I mean, with all due respect.
There's a
Madam Chair.
security component to the ballroom that you should probably look into, and certain
My-
things,
my-
of course, we
my
can't
question
talk about
is,
in
as
this committee.
appropriators, why
the
don't
Rules
you
Committee.
appropriate the funding? Why do you allow the administration to do an end run around this? I mean, you have appropriation bills coming up right now. You can fund hundreds of millions of dollars as you see fit. Why not just do it?
May I address that? May I address it? Thank you, sir. Look, valid question, but it is a little rich, because I do remember when, in the previous administration, there were hundreds of billions of dollars that were spent by then President Biden's administration that were neither appropriated nor authorized, and then it went to the Supreme Court of the United States, and the Supreme Court of the United States said it was unconstitutional. By the way, I don't remember the outrage by some of our Democratic colleagues about that taking place. Now, having said that,
It's unconstitutional?
what was unconstitutional was a time when the Democrats did not speak out when President Biden did it. Now,
Let me reclaim my time. Let me reclaim
well,
my time.
if you don't want me to answer it, then I get that, because you don't like the answer, but that is,
My question is, are you saying that this money that the president is spending, which was not authorized or appropriated for this use, is unconstitutional? If not, then do you approve of this money being spent on the ballroom? It's a simple question, not a trick question.
no, if I may, what I'm saying is that we are here, we have appropriation bills in front of you. We have two appropriation bills. By the way, none of these two bills deal with that specific issue. But again, it's a little rich when I hear all of a sudden a wake up that money that was not appropriated should or should not be appropriated, when the previous administration did so, and the Supreme Court of the United States said that it was wrong. And I do not remember. I may be wrong, because maybe you can get me some of your quotes demanding accountability to the president.
You support taxpayer funding for this ballroom?
I
Because
support-
the reason why is because they tried to put it in the reconciliation bill, but it became so unpopular that they removed it.
I support these two appropriation bills that are in front of you right now. Again, neither of which have that issue.
I will put you both down as saying that you support.
No, I'm saying what I'm saying,
Then I'll put
Mr.
you down as
Ranking
you
Member.
don't support that money.
No, what I am saying is I support these appropriation bills in front of you.
So maybe-
None of these,
Is it a maybe? I'm trying-
no?
I mean, anyway.
Well, look, you don't like the answer, and you sure we're not complaining when the previous administration did a lot more egregious than what you're claiming is happening
You're
today.
defending this president's unauthorized transfer of funds to do this. But let me ask, Mr. Cloud, you have submitted your amendment to permanently block the federal government from issuing a central bank digital currency 38 times to this Congress.
You're welcome.
And each and every one of those times, the Rules Committee, controlled by your party, has blocked your amendment from being made in order. So I see that you have filed your amendment for a 39th time today before our committee. My question is,
Holding out hope.
if Republicans block your amendment for the 39th time, will you vote against the rule?
I'll think about it.
Okay, because the question is, why would you continue to vote for rules that block your own amendments from getting votes? I mean, your party's in the majority. Let me just, one final question for Mr. Diaz-Balart. I'm looking over the National Security Department of State, and related programs appropriations bill, and I'll be honest with you, it does not reflect my values, and I think it weakens the United States. I think gutting programs that actually help deal with humanitarian crises is a bad thing for the United States, undercuts our national security, and I think national security needs to be thought of in terms that is not just about our military might, but about the good stuff that we do. And I also am deeply troubled by the de-emphasis of human rights by this administration and by, quite frankly, by Congress. I mean, the president went to China recently and met with President Xi. I was stunned that human rights was not a priority on their agenda and not part of the readout of his statement. I think President Xi is a horrific dictator that is abusing the Chinese people, that anybody who disagrees with him is put in jail. We have tons of political prisoners. And I would like to think that if any country in the world was out there fighting for these people, it would be the United States. But my question to you is the Trump administration is relying on the UN over and over for their priorities as the main channel for humanitarian aid, to legitimize the Gaza ceasefire, for new security arrangements in Haiti, and now to get nuclear weapons inspectors back into Iran. That's what the Trump administration is relying on the UN. Yet this committee isn't funding the UN. That just seems illogical. It's counterproductive, and it makes us look like a cowardly cheapskate in the eyes of the world. The U.S. should lead, and it is beneath us to be a freeloader. So my question is, why isn't this committee funding the UN to meet both the President's priorities, what the President has said he wants the UN to do, and Congress's, on human rights, on disease prevention, on conflict prevention, and other matters?
Thank you. Yeah, you're right that we do cut a lot of funding for example, the UN General Fund. We do, however, fund some key issues that the UN does. Now, we don't fund some things that, frankly, are just a waste of money. You mentioned human rights.
Yeah.
I think you and I would probably agree on one thing, which is that the Human Rights Council, the UN Human Rights Council, is made up of among the worst human rights violators in the planet. And to continue to fund entities like that, which all they do is they take our money and then use that money to, frankly, just go after the United States and our allies while being made up of the worst human rights violators in the world, it's just not serious. So while we're funding, again, I go back to what I said at the beginning, we're funding key issues, but we're not just spending money and throwing money away on wasteful issues.
But the money doesn't go to those countries. It goes to the body, right? I mean, it doesn't go to those countries. And
Yes, it goes.
And I'm just going to say this because I'm about to be gavelled down here. As the co-chair of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission, named after Tom Lantos, the only Holocaust survivor to serve in Congress, it is stunning to me how our country has withdrawn from being a leader on human rights. It is an afterthought. And some of the president's closest allies are the worst human rights abusers in the world. And again, it's really troubling. And I think it's one of those things that undercuts our overall national security. And I'm being cut off, so.
Representative Jim McGovern just delivered a masterclass in how to expose hypocrisy, executive overreach, and the double standard that defines Washington. He did not come with a speech. He came with documents. He came with numbers. He came with the voice of constituents who are fed up. And he left no doubt about the answer. The exchange between McGovern and the Republican appropriators was not just a routine budget hearing. It was a confrontation about the fundamental question of whether the government serves the people or serves itself, and whether the rule of law applies equally to everyone. McGovern began with the hypocrisy. He said Republicans talk about cutting humanitarian aid and food aid because they are worried about the debt. But they passed a tax cut bill that benefited multi-millionaires and billionaires and added trillions to the debt. They added $70 billion to ICE and CBP funding. None of it is offset. No one says a word. But when it comes to feeding hungry people, suddenly they need to tighten their belts. The contrast is stark. The hypocrisy is glaring. McGovern did not let it slide. He pointed out the double standard that has become the hallmark of Republican economic policy. When the wealthy benefit, there is no concern about the debt. When corporations get tax breaks, there is no concern about the deficit. When the military and immigration enforcement get blank checks, there is no concern about fiscal responsibility. But when it comes to feeding hungry children, helping the poor, or funding humanitarian aid, suddenly the debt is a crisis. McGovern exposed that contradiction with precision. Then McGovern turned to the ballroom. President Trump promised it would be 100% privately funded. He said it 1,000,000 times. McGovern asked the appropriators if they support using taxpayer dollars for the ballroom. They said no. They said there is no funding in their bills. Then McGovern dropped the documents. $340,800,000 on June 12th, $10,750,000 on June 12th, $45 million on June 15th, total nearly $400 million, transferred from accounts Congress appropriated for other purposes, moved into the White House Repair and Restoration account. For security upgrades. McGovern called it an end run around Congress. He asked if the Republicans support it. They did not say yes. They did not say no. They defended the previous administration. They said it was worse under Biden. They said the Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional. They did not say they oppose the transfers. They did not say they will stop them. The Republicans' defense was weak on every level. They said the ballroom has a security component. They said there are things they cannot talk about. They said the previous administration did worse. They said McGovern did not complain then. They did not answer the question. They did not explain why the transfers are legal. They did not explain why Congress should not fund the ballroom directly if it is so important. They did not explain why they are not using their power to stop the transfers. They deflected. They changed the subject. They attacked the previous administration. They attacked McGovern. They did not defend the transfers. The previous administration did worse defense is a classic political dodge. It is an admission that the current action is wrong, but an attempt to justify it by pointing to past wrongs. That is not a defense. That is an abdication of responsibility. McGovern's question is the most important. He asked why the administration does not just ask Congress for the money. The Republicans have the majority. They control the House, the Senate, and the White House. They can appropriate any amount they want. They can fund the ballroom directly. They choose not to. They choose to do an end run. They choose to transfer money from other accounts. They choose to hide it. They choose to avoid accountability. McGovern called them out. He said they are appropriators. He said they should be offended. He said the executive branch should respect the will of Congress. He said this is an end run. He said it is wrong. The administration is not asking for permission because it knows the ballroom is unpopular. It knows that if it asked Congress to fund the ballroom directly, there would be a debate. There would be a vote. There would be public scrutiny. The administration does not want that. It wants to avoid accountability. So it transfers money from other accounts and hopes no one notices. McGovern noticed. He brought the documents. He read the numbers. He exposed the scheme. The timing of the transfers is also revealing. The first two transfers happened on the same day, June 12th. The third transfer happened 3 days later, June 15th. That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern. The administration is moving money quickly before Congress can act. It is trying to create a fait accompli. It is trying to make the ballroom a reality before anyone can stop it. McGovern caught them. He held up the documents. He read the numbers. He asked the questions. He did not let them get away with it. Then McGovern turned to the UN funding. He said the Trump administration relies on the UN for its priorities. It uses the UN to legitimize the Gaza ceasefire. It uses the UN for new security arrangements in Haiti. It uses the UN to get nuclear weapons inspectors back into Iran. But the committee is cutting UN funding. McGovern said that is illogical. It is counterproductive. It makes the U.S. look like a cowardly cheapskate. He said the U.S. should lead. It is beneath us to be a freeloader. He said human rights are an afterthought. He said some of the president's closest allies are the worst human rights abusers in the world. He said it undercuts national security. The Republicans' defense on the UN was equally weak. They said the UN Human Rights Council is made up of human rights violators. They said they are not throwing money away. They did not address the contradiction. The administration relies on the UN for its priorities, but it does not fund the UN. That is not strategic. That is not principled. That is incoherent. McGovern called it illogical. He was right. The U.S. cannot ask the UN to do its bidding while cutting its funding. It cannot rely on the UN for humanitarian aid, ceasefire monitoring, security arrangements, and nuclear inspections while refusing to pay its fair share. That is not leadership. That is freeloading. McGovern said the U.S. is beneath that. He was right. McGovern's voice lands differently because of who he is. He is not a firebrand. He is a veteran legislator. He is a co-chair of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission. He has been working on these issues for years. He is not making this up. He is not exaggerating. He is presenting facts. And the facts are damning. The tax cuts are a giveaway to the rich. The ICE funding is unaccountable. The ballroom transfers are an end run. The human rights commitment is hollow. The UN funding cuts are counterproductive. McGovern exposed all of it. He did it with documents. He did it with numbers. He did it with logic. He did it with the voice of constituents. And he left no doubt about the answer. The hearing ended without the Republicans offering a meaningful defense. They sat there. They listened. They deflected. They said the previous administration did worse. They said McGovern did not complain then. They did not defend the transfers. They did not defend the priorities. They did not defend the hypocrisy. McGovern had done his job. He had held them accountable. He had exposed the truth. And he had made it clear that the American people deserve better. The question now is whether anyone in the administration or the Republican Party is listening. The ballroom is still being built. The transfers are still happening. The priorities are still wrong, and Jim McGovern is still watching.